In today's show, the Blazers wrapped up a road trip in Charlotte on Friday with a win that didn't feel great and then turn around with a loss that did. Sunday in Portland against OKC. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You listen to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're going to talk about a pair of games. A win that didn't feel great, and a loss that kind of did. The Blazers wrap up a road trip in Charlotte on Friday evening, the second night of a back-to-back, and complete a 3-game sweep of the Southeastern Conference, run their winning streak to 4 games, their longest since October of 2022. And I don't know many Blazer fans, at least in my orbit, that felt really good about the way things went on Friday. A weird world the NBA has created. And then they turn around on Sunday and they play against OKC, probably the best team in the NBA, in a game that they ended up losing, but felt pretty good. I haven't had as much distance from that one to gauge my entire Blazers orbit, but just judging by my email inbox, people felt a lot worse on Friday than they do on Sunday. It's a strange place to be for the Blazers. We will unpack both those games, talk about Deni and Toumani Camara, the future of the Blazers, and then I want to touch on sort of organizational alignment, a phrase I started using last week that I think will be a big theme for the remainder of as long as this experiment continues forward the way it is going. That's what we'll do to close the show. Let's do though. Fast recap in the West. Let's talk about both these games. Blazers win in Charlotte 102-97, down 8 after 1, down 4 at halftime, 54-50, down 2 heading into the third quarter. 75-73 Bugs, who are playing without LaMelo Ball, who are playing out without Miles Bridges. Both of those gentlemen were listed as questionable in the afternoon injury report the Hornets released, and then they were ruled out ahead of tip-off. The Hornets have 11 wins on the season. Came into the night with 11 wins. Blazers came in with 16. It was important to Charlotte to not win any more games. They did not play their vets to make sure to accomplish their goals. Whether those gentlemen could have played or not is unclear to me, but I know that if they weren't ruled out until the game, we got close to the game, and then both of them were ruled out. Cody Martin, who was on the injury list with a groin injury, only played 5 minutes, and then he left too for the Hornets. So an already shorthanded Bucks team, pretty darn shorthanded. And Yet, the Blazers, starting Anthony Simons, Toumani Camara, Deni Avdija, Jeremy Grant, and Donovan Clingan, who returns after a week off, though we didn't get a reevaluation date. We just got Donovan Clingan available to play, but still no Rob Williams, and still no and Rob Williams sitting out the second night of back-to-back, and still no DeAndre Ayton back in the lineup, who missed Friday and Sunday's game. The Blazers, with pretty obviously more talent than what the Hornets were trotting out there on Friday night, are down 2 heading into the fourth quarter. And the Blazers would win the fourth by 7, 29-22, and would take home a 5-point lead. Anthony Simons hit a 3 with 7 minutes and 45 seconds left. That gave the Blazers their lead for good. Then he hit a floater on the next trip. Then Deni Avdija had a layup pushing in transition. They got up by 7 with 6 minutes and 40 seconds left, and the Bugs never really had a chance. Never had the ball with a chance to tie. There was a big bucket late by Jeremy Grant in a five-point game with a minute left. Jeremy Grant hits a little baseline jumper, pushes it to 7. Mid-range king, and the Blazers go on to win 102-97. That's your fastest recap in the West for Friday. Blazers escape, head back home, and they're greeted with a day off on Saturday, and then a long travel day and a day off, and then an afternoon matinee game on Sunday at the Moda Center. Welcome back. The first of 7 straight home games, the longest homestand of the season for the Blazers, and it kicks off with the best team in the NBA, first game back from a road trip in the middle of the afternoon. This is not an easy one. And yet the Blazers are up 10 in the first quarter. They're up 20-10, 27-27 after one. Game's tied as the Thunder make their pushback, and then the Thunder just dominated the second quarter. Dominant second quarter. They scored 39 points. They go into halftime up 66-53, and they just kind of hold the Blazers there, up 15, heading into the fourth quarter, 93-78. It didn't feel like the Thunder were thrashing the Blazers at any point. It just felt like every time the Blazers made a move, made a push, the Thunder had the sort of the shooting talent and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander talent to make it happen. I thought the Blazers played freaking good defense on Shai. Like, I thought they defended him really well, and he finished with 35-5. Only had one assist, which I think really speaks to it, and the Blazers shot really well from three to keep themselves in the game, including Toumani Camara going 5 of 5 from three, and Deni Avdija hitting 4 threes on 4 of 9 from deep. You make your threes, you're going to have a chance in the NBA. It's how it works. Typically, not always, but typically, and the Blazers shot enough threes to give themselves a chance. Down 15 after 3, we head to the fourth quarter, and I think the sequence for me that really decided the game was about the 7-minute mark. Blazers have cut it to 9. Scoot Henderson hits back-to-back free throws. Is 99-90 at the 7-minute mark, and the Thunder come down, take a 3, offensive rebound. Kick out on, as the offensive rebound, Cason Wallace goes up for a dunk in a kind of a weird scramble, misses the dunk, ball pops out, Thunder get the rebound again. They miss a third 3. They've now missed 3 shots, but Isaiah Hartenstein corrals a high bouncing rebound right around the foul line, knocks it out to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who steps into a 3-pointer, and it was about a 45-second possession. There was a huge scramble and a ton of contact in the paint, a very sort of chaotic possession just in general, and a 9-point game turns into a 12-point game. The Blazers go down the other way, and Donovan Clingan is called for an offensive foul, called for a moving screen. I think he hit him. I think he did. I was in the arena, so I didn't get a great replay like you would if you were watching at home. So if you're watching at home, and I have not gone back and watched that specific play, but to me, it's like, tough call. Not the one you want to see. But to me, I think he moved a little bit and knocked over Caruso. They get the foul. They come back. Pick and roll, double team. Hartenstein kicks out to Caruso in the corner. 3, bang. A 9-point game is now back to a 15-point lead with just under 6 minutes to go, 5:58, and the Blazers take a timeout. I think that was the sequence. That was the minute from 7:01 to 5:58. The Blazers give up 3 offensive rebounds, commit an offensive foul. The Thunder hit 2 threes, and now you're down 15 with 6 minutes left. You're going to need to beat this team, or to make it close with this team, you're going to need to play near perfect basketball. Blazers got as close as 7. Deni Avdija hit a 3. They went way under on a screen. He moved to his left and it just easily cashed a 3 with nobody around him. Said, "You dare me to shoot it? I would love to take you up on that dare." Cut it to 7 with 3.5 minutes left, but they didn't really threaten after that. The Thunder just answered with buckets every time down. Isaiah Joe, a tough bucket. Isaiah Hartenstein, a floater, and the Blazers just couldn't get enough stops because the Thunder are really freaking good, and the Thunder go on to win 118-108. That's your fastest recap in the West for Sunday. These 2 games were different, y'all. They were different. On Friday, it felt like the Blazers maneuvered in a way that was not in the best interests of their franchise. And on Sunday, it felt like they got really good performances from 2 key members of the future, and they challenged a very, very talented team. In some ways, the process was similar. It was a similar process. I want to talk about that process to close the show. But before we get there and kind of talk big picture stuff, I want to talk about Deni and Toumani. They were awesome on Sunday against Oklahoma City. And so many times when this particular podcaster talks about the youth, I'm only talking about Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson and maybe a little bit of Donovan Clingan. But I am remiss to not mention that both of those gentlemen are pretty young and pretty darn good, and certainly could be part of what is next for the Blazers. Let's talk about those 2 guys and what is indeed next for the Blazers. Join me in that second segment, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Look, it's here. Super Bowl 59. 1 game, 2 teams, Birds, Chiefs. endless possibilities. It's been nearly 2 years since we've seen this exact same game, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook in a Super Bowl that, again, you haven't seen since all the way back in 2023. Whether you're predicting the first touchdown between the same two teams that played in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, or calling the MVP, could it be Patrick Mahomes and a three-peat, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to final whistle while you're watching the Chiefs play in yet another Super Bowl, yet again against the Eagles. Who could possibly want more? The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. So download the app, head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right. On Sunday, Deni Avdija did a little bit of friggin' everything. He finished with 28 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists on 9 of 16 shooting. He made 4 of 9 threes. He got to the free throw line and made all 6 of his free throws. He was everywhere. And down the stretch of the game, when they were from down 15 to making it a game, it was Deni kind of alternating with Anthony Simons and sort of initiating the offense. But they were letting Deni go to work. They were letting Deni get them into stuff, get them looks, get them, get the switches they wanted. On the other end, they were having Deni and Toumani switch them, guard the main actions or try to keep them in the main actions so that either one of them, mostly Toumani, but Deni as well, on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and show him length, show him physicality. Over the last couple games, they've really committed to playing this bigger lineup with Jeremy Grant and Toumani and Deni. It was the lineup that they started the season with when Shaedon Sharpe was hurt, and it was really intriguing. Things change now with health and how deep we are into the season, and we'll talk about that later. But Deni was hooping on Sunday, and it continues a trend. Deni Avdija has probably been, over the course of the last, he had a really bumpy month to begin the season, but since then he's probably been the Blazers' best player, all told. If you're talking I don't think he's been their best offensive player, and I don't think he's been their best defensive player, but I think he's been near the top of both of those, and I think he's probably been, all things considered, probably their best player this season, which is funny because he was coming off the bench for a little bit, but he was really good again on Sunday. He was really good. And you know who else was really good? Freaking Toumani Camara, who made his first 8 shots. He finished 8 of 11 from the field, but 5 of 5 from 3. He finished with 24 points, 9 boards, and 4 assists. I thought Deni played, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander pretty darn well. I thought when Scoot was on, Shai, he played him pretty darn well too in terms of competitiveness. Scoot got a little foully in the first half, but he got in terms of competitiveness, and Shai had 35 on 12 of 25 shooting. So he's really good. I don't think looking at this necessarily his direct matchup box score speaks to how well he played. Generally, defense is best judged by watching the damn game. But I thought Toumani played really well. He played really well on offense. I thought Deni played really well. He played a really solid all-around game. And so many times when I have, and this is a me problem, I'm recognizing my own sort of the language I will use, and I want to be more careful about this moving forward, is that I'll talk, they got to play the youngsters, play the young core, play the future. And I'm talking about Shai, and I'm talking about Scoot, and I'm talking about Donovan Clingan. And I'm going to do that again to close the show. But Toumani Camara hasn't celebrated his 26th birthday. Deni Avdija is a 24-year-old. These are young players, right? These are young guys. These are players, shy of their prime. I think I said Toumani hadn't celebrated his 26th birthday. I believe he's going to turn 25 in May, actually. So these are two 24-year-olds. These are young players in the league. Toumani, played in college and for 4 years and then came pro, so he's a little bit older for how much experience he has. But Deni's been in the league a while, and he's still a young vet, right? And I think when you're looking at these dudes, it's could this be the Blazers' starting forwards in the future? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. The question, I think, along the way for the Blazers isn't whether they've discovered useful role players. Toumani and Deni are undeniably useful role players. I think the question for them is, what is their top-end talent? I don't think at risk of angering the many Deni fans that listen to the show, like I don't see Deni as likely to make an all-star team during his career. It wouldn't stun me if he did, but I would bet against it, right? But that doesn't mean that he's not good. It just means that he's probably like, it's really hard to make the all-star team, period. It's extremely hard to make the all-star team in the Western Conference. Like, he can be a high-level player that helps you win basketball games without making it to the midseason showcase. And if he does, it wouldn't like be this necessarily like a stunning development. But I would personally bet against it. Doesn't mean I don't think he's really good. Toumani, I straight up won't make an all-star team during his career, right? He just doesn't profile as that. That doesn't mean they can't be really helpful players in the future of a team that's pretty good. The Blazers have been competitive over their last 15 or so games. They've had some real stinkers in there too, but like, I believe they've won 7 of their last 16. They're 7-9 of the last 16 games. Like they're in a pretty reasonable spot. Like, obviously they had four games this week. They're not in a reasonable spot for like the big picture, which we're going to talk about later. But like in terms of like having players that play on a team that can be kind of competitive each night, Toumani Camara and Deni Avdija check that box. The question for the Blazers isn't whether they have like really, they haven't, mistaken upon, or very specifically in these two cases, targeted and acquired role players that could be, starters on the next really good Blazer team, no problem. It's the question is, who else do they have that can push them over the top, right? Like that we're still talking about top end talent in the Western Conference. It's just the truth. If you don't have someone who makes the All-Star team every year, you're probably not making the playoffs. I think when the All-Star teams get released next week, Thursday afternoon, I believe they'll come out. So like maybe on Friday's show, we'll do a quick rundown of like playoff teams with All-Star members, All-Star selections on it. Like the obviously some of it is the snake eating its own tail, because if you're good, you're going to make the All-Star team, etc. But like, for the most part, basically a perennial all-star is what you need. I don't think either of those gentlemen are perennial all-stars, but that doesn't mean they aren't good and useful and helpful to what's next. Could the Blazers have discovered their starting 3 and 4 interchangeably? I don't think either of those guys' positions really matters in that case. In the future, absolutely. Deni, with his playmaking and his versatility on defense, he obviously he shot it really well on Sunday, and so it always makes you feel good. But he's kind of leveled out after a really rough shooting begin to the season, where it's like, yeah, he might be just like totally fine, not like an elite 3-point shooter, but totally fine on that end. Toumani, his swing skill is going to be the shooting. Obviously, he made 5 threes on Sunday, and that makes you feel like, okay, well, maybe a lot of those were wide open off of good attention, like strong attention. Anthony Simons got a lot of defensive attention, and the Blazers worked it to the opposite side. And Toumani Camara said, if I'm the dude you want to help off of, that's fine, and hit threes. I think he punished them. The Blazers shot really well from 3 against OKC, 18 of 40. That's 45%. I think Deni and Tu complement each other well. I think they add to defensive versatility. I think Tu is actually a pretty good role man and decision maker as a short roll guy, so you can run 2-man action with Deni and Toumani a little bit. Deni just does enough good stuff on both ends to be really helpful when he plays. So, have the Blazers found their forwards of the future? It depends on how far into the future this whole thing has to go. Certainly, gentlemen under contract for multiple more seasons, you can build with them, and that you found 2 guys that you hope you can build something special with. But the Blazers are still searching for that high-end contributor, that high to push them into the beyond where they're building. But I think if you are looking for things to enjoy about this team, the Blazers have 2 24-year-old forwards who are pretty darn useful and would help pretty much any team in the league. I saw someone make an argument with a friend of mine. I overheard, I should say. I didn't see it. I was just sitting there listening to these 2 people talk, and they said that Toumani could help any team in the league but the Celtics. I thought that was an interesting point, because on the Celtics you'd need to bomb away from 3 was the argument. Yeah, I think that might be true. That might be true. He could help any team in the league. And could Toumani bomb away from 3? Yeah, absolutely he could. Would they go in? I don't know, but he could definitely get them up. I have no problem believing that. The question for the Blazers is, where and how do they acquire that high-end talent? Because Deni can help them and can help them into the future, and Toumani can help them and help them into the future. And as they continue to build and continue to look and continue to try to get a draft pick truly, truly correct that can help them get to where they need to go, getting really good, useful wings, particularly at their at premium positions. Getting really useful wings at those spots is a great place to sort of start. They aren't foundational pieces. They're more complementary parts, but they're really, really useful complementary parts. And I think on Sunday underscored how useful those guys can be, even if, like, admittedly, what they combined 9 of 14 from 3. This was an outlier shooting night, particularly for Toumani, 5 of 5. But like, in general, I think we've seen over the last, 2 months that these dudes are helpful, and Toumani is really good on defense, and Deni is just versatile on both ends and really valuable. And the Blazers have, am I gonna sit here and say the next Blazer team that wins 50 games, definitely the starting forwards will be Deni Avdija and Toumani Camara? No, because I think that particular path, 50 win path, is maybe a ways away, that it's hard to make firm predictions. But if you traveled back in time to tell me that, I wouldn't be surprised, because these guys are they're capable of being parts of a very good team, clearly parts of a very good team. If not like your second and third best players. I think ideally on like an elite team, you'd want them to be your third and fourth best players, but like, they're still growing, right? We don't know what Deni's going to be at 27, right? We don't know what as Toumani continues to grow. I kind of think most of the times that someone like Deni, who's been in the league for 5 years, you kind of see what he is, and then he sharpens his skills, right? Like he's not going to like take these massive leaps. Now it's about sharpening and refining the things he does really well. One of the things he does really well is push really hard in transition, play extremely physical on offense. He's a smart playmaker when he gets on the move. When the shot is falling, he's a really, really useful player. And Toumani is just, he is a weapon on defense, a really versatile, good point of attack defender, and plays with real physicality and real intensity. And that intensity is a thing that can lift the tide a lot. It can help you get where you need to go, just because you can count on that type of intensity every single night. Those two dudes are checked boxes in terms of what you're hoping to be. That's the rest of the boxes, which is kind of what I want to talk about in the third segment. I mentioned in a show last week on Friday's program, shout out to my everydayers who have already heard me use this term, organizational alignment. And I think the organizational alignment was a little bit funky in Charlotte. Let's talk about that and talk about where the Blazers are in terms of aligning as an organization. Join me in that third segment. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. So, Friday in Charlotte, I got a lot of emails from folks who are mad about that game, and I had a friend text me, a friend who watches the games very closely. It was they were pretty upset about the game too. Like, that was the first game that all season long that the Blazers won, and they felt like that sucked. Like, I didn't enjoy that game. Other times you find a way to enjoy it, or you kind of can rationalize it, but it was like that game against Charlotte felt like just like, this is not what you want to do. This was the wrong thing to do. Now, I have railed against the scourge of tanking. It's not great that NBA fans are like, my team won a game, this is very bad. But that's like the larger structural thing that I've talked about a lot of times on the show. I think tanking's bad, but there is a pragmatic reality that it has to happen. It has to happen. You got to chase the ping pong balls. The Blazers' kind of messiness right now is that they're not committed to that. That's the lack of organizational alignment. On Friday, Blazers go into Charlotte, second night of a back-to-back, and Scoot Henderson plays 23 minutes off the bench. Shaedon Sharpe played 31 and would have played a little bit more. Scoot would have played a little bit less. I think Sharpe fouled out with 90 seconds left, so Scoot would have played like 21 minutes, and Shea would have played 33. It's not really about the minutes necessarily. It's about how this game went down. Anthony Simons took 16 shots, scored 17 of his 22 in the second half. Jeremy Grant took 18 shots, a team-high 18 field goal attempts. If you want to count shooting possessions, Deni Avdija had 6 field goal attempts and 14 free throws. That's 20. Jeremy Grant had 18 field goal attempts and 4 free throws. That's 22. So Jeremy Grant, the true shooting possessions, still led the team in shooting possessions. Is it a crime that Anthony Simons shoots a lot on the team when he plays? No, that's literally his best strength. That's like the thing he's like, if Amph's going to be in there, you need him to shoot. The thing he does is offense. If he's going to be and have any value on the court, you need him to shoot it and for the ball to go in. He did not, and the ball did not go in on Sunday, but that's a conversation for another day. Not the focus. I should say that's not the focus of this episode, because I probably won't talk about it in another day otherwise. but the process seems weird. The Hornets clearly were invested in losing the game. I don't know if they were we'll see like LaMelo and Bridges' availability going forward. I think we'll be a better judge of this game. There's only one game in the NBA on Sunday. So maybe Monday will be a better day to judge what the deal is with the Hornets moving forward. But clearly two teams that are invested in losing games. One of them kind of committed to that and played the worst version of their roster that they basically could, plus Mark Williams, who just wants to play for availability reasons, has missed too much time. And the Blazers kind of just leaned into more veteran players to close out a game. This one seemed like an organizational alignment mishap. Like, the coach, who is a short timer, is pressing for them to win games because that's what you do when you're a coach that has in his situation. And the Blazers, Jeremy Grant, every time it's like once you put them on the court, they're going to play with how they play. It is what it is. I also thought Scoot Henderson mostly sucked. Did he deserve to play more minutes? Probably not, right? Like, it's not about deserve. It's about organizational investment. Once you've invested a top 3, top 5, top 10 pick in someone, at some point, if you're a bad team, you just sort of need to play them. I think on good teams, it's fine when young players don't play. Like, it's fine when first-round draft picks don't play on a team that's trying to be competitive. You just say, like, we're trying to win. You're not good enough to have us win. You're going to play 12 minutes a night, and you're going to work on your game. And if in year 2 you're ready to contribute at a high level, you can play. But like the skill work you need is going to come behind the scenes. Like, you don't carve out developmental minutes if you're trying to be competitive. But if you're not, if you're a developmental team like the Blazers, not naturally carving out minutes is a little bit weird. Do I think playing Scoot Henderson 23 minutes on Sunday, Shaedon Sharpe was pretty bad. He only played 19 minutes and he really struggled. Blaze got killed in his minutes. Do I think that those guys playing, basically the way the roster works now, and with both of those gentlemen coming off the bench, which is admittedly very weird, one of them is going to get pinched each night. One of them is going to play 25, and one of them is going to play around 20. And that's 25 plus, and one of them is going to play around 20. That's just the nature of it if you're going to start the other guys ahead of them. That's how it's going to work. That's kind of how the math works, period. I don't think in the grand scheme of things, the difference in 19 minutes a night and 30 minutes a night is going to torpedo anyone's career. I don't believe that. I just think it's a little bit weird. And I will say this as an observer here. The idea that I have said in the past that like players don't tank and coaches don't tank. But then I've watched Will Hardy coach the Jazz all year, and I'm like, well, Will Hardy tanks a little bit. I've seen my man understand what the Jazz are after, and it is not winning. And he has coached in opportunities when he has given them, he's like pulled vets off the floor that would help them at the end of the games. Like, Isaiah Collier, go get it. I watched him coach a game down 3 with a timeout and leave the building with a timeout in his hand. Like, the only way, or down 4 with a timeout, the only way to have a chance in that game is to call your timeout and play the foul game, and they didn't do that, right? They just chose to lose. So I've seen that happen. I've seen Chauncey Billups pull Shaedon Sharpe from a game with under 8 minutes to go in San Antonio and insert John Butler Jr. at point guard and then not challenge an obvious charging call in order to ensure a loss to the Spurs. When you have stability and you're part of the plan moving forward, then coaches are comfortable losing more than I would have probably said that in the past. So this is what I mean organizational alignment. It's not... Most guys in the league are pretty competitive. You put them on the floor, they're going to play to win. Most guys are hyper competitive. They wouldn't literally make it to the league without being fiercely competitive. I think that's something like 85% of the league, extremely competitive. There's some people who are not particularly competitive. You might have watched some of them play center for the Blazers sometimes. It comes and goes with DeAndre, honestly. Sometimes he really is locked in. Others, not so much. But mostly players play to win. Mostly coaches play to win. But Chauncey Billups is not doing that. Chauncey Billups is coaching to win right now. He's not on the board with the sort of organizational alignment to tank. Whether that's Billups with the full sign-off from the front office or whether that's Billups just like saying, like, it's my team, I'm going to coach them how I want, then I think that'll be maybe better reported by someone else than I. But I will say this. Friday felt pretty bad. Sunday was the same thing. Friday, obviously they won. But if you're like, that's like being too results oriented. The problem with what they're doing is the process, not the results. I don't even really care about the ping pong balls. I don't care about the winning. I care about the process. What are the priorities of everyone involved? I don't think Sunday was any change in priorities. We still saw that starting lineup with Anthony Simons, the three wings, and Donovan Clingan, like Deni, Tu, and Jeremy as in the starters. Again, Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe coming off the bench. Has Shaedon Sharpe like played his way to a bench role? Probably, right? Probably. But deserve got nothing to do with it. Scoot was playing some of the best basketball of his season, probably the best stretch of his career. The first time ever in his career that he had linked 4 consecutive, like no doubt about it, good games in a row together. And then because of the health and situation with the team, he's moved back to the bench. He's had some stinkers off the bench. He was pretty freaking good against OKC. Hit 5 threes, 7 of 17 from the floor, finished with 25 points and 5 threes off the bench to go with 5 rebounds. Did have 3 assists and 4 turnovers, but like I don't even, with Scoot, it's like, I'm not even that worried. He's going to have stinkers, right? He's a guy who's still trying to figure out his spot in the league. Does he deserve to have 35 minutes cut out for him? No, probably not, right? Like, not based on how he's played, but based on where the organization has invested. It's not about deserve. It's not about earning your minutes at this point. That is nonsense for high school basketball. Maybe even college basketball. This is a team that has invested millions of dollars into Scoot Henderson being okay, has invested millions of dollars into Shaedon Sharpe being okay or a lot better for both of those gentlemen. If they're not, now is the time to play them and find out. It is not time to have them earn their minutes. Again, I don't think it'll really mess up their whole career in terms of whatever, but in terms of like their overall peak or whatever could be, the like 10 minutes that they're missing out on each game, it's just a weird decision. And it continued on Sunday. It's just a weird spot to be in. So here's what I'll offer you to close the show. Because thinking about this, like I enjoyed Sunday's game. I thought the Blazers played pretty darn well, and same way I thought they played pretty darn well against the Magic on Thursday evening. Friday's game against the Hornets was a little bit different, but I thought Sunday's game was an impressive performance by the Blazers. Young forwards. Scoot played well off the bench. Hard to complain about that, right? A good Scoot night, a good Deni night, a good Tu night. All of that was enjoyable. So here's what I encourage you to do. I've talked a lot about blimp height on this show, is that if you zoom out to blimp height, you can maybe appreciate the Blazers. Because if you zoom out at 30,000 feet, it's like, what the hell is going on? If you're at cruising altitude on a commercial jet, you are too high up and you are seeing all of the warts of the landscape below you. I'm going to say that you need to get below blimp height now. You got to get down... You got to get down maybe at like skateboard level. You got to get on the ground floor. If you're going to find enjoyment with this team, it needs to be in the tiny minutia. It needs to be in appreciating Deni and Tu on this one night, which is why I talked about him in the second segment. It needs to be in appreciating a really good shooting night from Scoot Henderson. And then like they're going under screens and Scoot Henderson is punishing them going under screens. And that's a great step in his development. I think you got to get close to appreciate this team right now. If you are looking for joy, some folks are committed to being miserable. I am not talking to them. I appreciate your commitment. I'm talking to you, dear listener. If you are someone who wants to find joy in this, who wants to appreciate this, get closer. Get closer. Like, you need to zoom in and get closer. You need to look at the little things, because the bigger picture, and now I would say even the medium picture, like the blimp height, the blimp altitude picture is like, this seems weird. Not necessarily detrimental, but weird. Like what's going on? It seems odd. So get close, stay close, find your joy if that's something you are looking for, because Toumani played great. Appreciate that. Deni played great. Appreciate that. Scoot shot really well. Appreciate that. You zoom out and look at the whole process, you might lose a little bit of appreciation. Stay close and come back for more programming later this week. What we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.